Hello and welcome. Barely has India been able to come to terms with the two devastating phases of COVID-19 pandemic infection that has gripped the entire country alongside the rest of the world. And now there is this third major challenge that the country, alongside a significant portion of the world, is currently going to face, and that's the challenge from the Omicron variant. To talk about the entire prospect of how to meet the challenge of this new variant, I am currently joined by Dr. Parnali Dhar, epidemiologist with the Johns Hopkins University in the US. Thank you, Parnali, for making time. A very good morning to you. For the benefit of our viewers, if you can give a brief, overview of this new variant. How is it, different? People are calling it more and more virulent. Perhaps the most virulent version of the virus so far. How is it, say, for example, different from the Delta variant, which countries like India have already endured?
Hi, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Omicron. Right now, I guess all over the world we are talking about, and then I'm talking from US. And actually, day before yesterday in the state of California, we saw first Omicron, and now in the 5 states. So, as you mentioned very rightfully, that people are panicked, and how much we should be panicked, and what I can offer in terms of what I know in terms of Omicron variant. The first thing, Shogato, is that we have to understand that this has a little bit more transmissibility, no doubt about that. WHO said this variant is a variant of concern. Why? Because it has more transmissibility than Delta that you just mentioned, because within like 5 days, so in the province of Gauteng in South Africa, which was like kind of 3,000 cases with the Omicron when they were not detected, but then when they started detecting, they saw within 5 days, it actually touched the number of 9,000. And then, as you can see, the other places also, India has also also have seen the Omicron. It's like spreading very, very rapidly. So that's the one thing that people are panicked about, that okay, this is spreading a little bit more in a way. And how much more? That there is one study from Johannesburg, NICD, National Institute of Communicable Diseases, that they said it might have transmissibility 3 to 6 times more than Delta. Okay. So if that is true, because they are doing the math based on their South African spread nature, so if that is true, then obviously it will be the case all over the world in the international podium, and that is a kind of scary point in terms of transmissibility. And the second point is that on the top of this is basically, if you look at this, that the people who are actually vaccinated, double vaccinated, and sometimes they have booster dose, they also are showing mild symptoms. So that's the thing. Now, this is not very clear why this is happening. There are lots of theories that we can talk about. There's a little bit technical, like in terms of the vaccine evasive characters that it has in term, like, for example, we can talk about various cells, T cells, NK cells, how it's working inside the body. But the point is that it has some capacity. It is true that it has some capacity to elude or like evade the response or like the antibody that we have after the vaccination or after the infection. So that is true. And why that is happening, we can come later. It has lots of I can talk about the S gene. It has a tendency to SGTF, we call it S gene evasive character, like that. So we cannot detect that. So it's dropped out the S gene in
But Pranali, before you get into those technicalities, let me ask you this first, just to clear up my conception about this whole challenge that we face at this point in time. One, of course, is that at this point in time, India has 2 known cases of the Omicron variant. There are several other suspects. who are tested as COVID positive. They are all travelers from foreign countries into India, and their samples have been sent for genome sequencing, which obviously takes time. And because of the virulent nature of the current this variant of the virus, um, there is this underlying perception that because it takes some time to actually detect whether someone who's infected with the virus is actually carrying the Omicron variant, or the normal variant of the virus. There is this whole possibility of the situation getting out of hand even before we detect whether someone has been detected or infected with the Omicron variant. Is that the primary challenge? Because genome sequencing, obviously, Parnali, you would know better, takes time.
True, true. So the thing is that right now, yes, that's the point. Like at the time it will take, whether this will go out of proportion between this time, there is a possibility, because right now, and India also, I was reading in Hindustan Times, like they are trying to do what they're trying to do, the S gene, that escape capacity that the Omicron variant has, they are trying to impose the kits that will detect the S gene. So far, the India has the kits for RT-PCR that was not detecting S gene. It was based on nucleocapsid one, then the envelope one, NE, and then there are two other genes, RDRP, but it was not detecting S gene. So they are imposing that. So that's the kind of, I would say, a right direction. Like you, genome detection is the secondary, it comes after that. So first, when you know that RT-PCR is detecting some of the patients, like okay, this might be Omicron, then you can go for the genome detection. So that way you can give a little bit check on that.
So, are you suggesting, Parnali, that countries like India, with a vast population, where detection, contact tracing, and effective isolation are essentially major challenges for all the governments, both the center as well as for the states? Are you suggesting that the country now needs to have new kits to quickly detect the Omicron variant?
Well, this has been not essentially, well, it's a new kit in a way. You just not the whole new procedure is just kind of a proxy test RT-PCR where you are detecting the S gene that's dropping in other
Okay,
kits. So it's not a
okay.
huge thing. It's possible to do. I am sure that that capacity India has, so that will give an immediate kind of detection. Like okay, this might be an Omicron. So that is the best way to do right now, unless scientific community reveals like what is the how much virulent the Omicron is. It is still not there. It is assumed that it has more transmissibility based on the modeling of its spreading nature. And then because of the S gene dropping out character, they are saying that there are 26 to 32 mutations happen. So if it is not detecting, it has some capacity to evade the immunity. And that is also, testified by the reinfection of the people who has the vaccine. So these are the scenarios now we are dealing with, right? So your question coming back that, okay, if that is the good way to, I mean, what will be the good way? It is a very vast country and it might go to the out of proportion. Yes, there is a possibility, but obviously, as we last 2 years we are seeing new variants are coming. India has dealt with Delta, so I think it is the best way we can do. It is as it is. So the best way we could do is basically the new RT-PCR kits. Not the procedure is different, it's just a proxy test. So we could
Right.
imply that in the airports just to check the travelers, and that's not the
So
100%.
coming to these preventive measures that a country can take. The first response, which obviously is kind of a knee jerk in the wake of the danger that any government faces, is to impose a ban. And that the ban can include travel bans. The ban can include a complete lockdown. The ban can include any curb on free mixing in public life. So do you think that these kinds of knee-jerk measures, knee-jerk reactions, would do any good to contain the spread of the virus, especially in a country like India, a massively densely populated country like that of India?
So the travel ban means you are talking about the international one, right? Right now,
That's
because
right.
yes, yes.
That's the first response, and then it is followed by the domestic travel ban as well.
Yes, 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 of course. Once it is inside the country, then the domestic travel ban comes into the point. So the point is that I personally believe, based on the literature and the way we are seeing the virus spread, that travel ban doesn't prove 100%, doesn't seal 100% of the virus spread. And also in
Okay.
Omicron, if you see that the Dutch official says in Netherlands, like they have seen the Omicron variant 7 days or a week before the South African, the KLM flights landed over there. Okay.
Hmm.
So now people are talking about, okay, that flight has 600 people and out of them 61 were infected, and out of 61, 14 were Omicron. So those 14 are the culprits who actually brought Omicron in Europe, which is not true. They already had Omicron, because virus mutates and virus never stayed as wild type. So it always mutates. So Delta, then Omicron, there will be some Micron or all other variants. So that's why
Right.
we have to be prepared. And it's not possible to be prepared with all arms, because we don't know what is going
Right.
to happen. So
Right.
the alarming point is this time frame, 2 to 4 weeks, what country can do in a timely measures. And I
Hmm.
guess that the way South African president said that this is a little bit unscientific and indiscriminately imposed to them, I
Hmm.
guess it's right, because the Europe already had Omicron. It's not the South Africa actually sent them. And who knows, like, obviously they are, I'm not going in South Africa context, but it's just I'm trying to say that travel ban is not the 100% sealed conclusion in
Right.
terms of pollution. Okay, in
Right.
terms of India, obviously it is not. So the thing is that I personally believe that this time frame is important, and the tools we have, of course, we don't have every tools right now, unless we don't know that doing the RT-PCR in the airport with all the foreign travelers would be our best options. And if it is spread out of proportion, like in epidemiology, we measure with the R, the growth rate of the new cases. South Africa has now two. If India is going more than one, slowly, then travel ban we can think of. But
Right.
immediately doing the travel ban will do no good.
So you are not in favor of travel ban, at least not at this stage. I can understand that. So would you then suggest that the best way to go forward as of now, with the kind of tools and the experience that we've had so far with the virus, is to go for more and more testing and
Exactly.
more contact tracing? I think these are the two the most important measures that any government can immediately take at this point in time in the wake of this new variant, is it not?
Is it true? Yes, it is true. Is it the 100% solution? The answer is no, in a way,
No,
because
certainly
contact tracing will be difficult in India. Then
not.
obviously that doesn't mean we won't do that. The point
Mhm.
is that during this time frame, as you mentioned, these two solutions, and then another thing is the vaccination and booster dose that US
Right.
is doing and other countries in Europe started doing. Because you know what, even though it's actually has capacity to infect or sorry reinfect the vaccinated people, the symptoms are still mild. Omicron hasn't killed so far any person. So the vaccination is another
That's
important.
perhaps the only silver lining in this dark cloud, and I would like to you to talk about it and tell our viewers, assure our viewers that even though there is this high virulence rate, the transmissibility is very high, its fatality mortality rate is very low. So that's one good thing about this new variant, then we can possibly think of at this point in time, is it not?
Yes, it is true. I won't say that the virulence is, I mean, in terms of very stricter way that, okay, this has more virulence. Of course, we are assuming it has more virulence given the
Okay.
nature of the mutation, but
Okay.
that will come up slowly. There are some studies has been published yesterday, November 30th, like in Nature also, like the genetically engineered virus, proxy virus of Omicron
Hmm.
people are making, and they have
Hmm.
seen that the exact mimicry of Omicron virus actually have the potential to evade the immunity. So in reality,
Okay.
whether it's happening or not, that will take some time. So then we can
Right.
say, okay, the virulence is really high. science-based evidence is there, and then we can take measures. So far we are assuming, and transmissibility, yes, there, that is, I guess, I strongly believe that transmissibility is much higher than Delta.
And as some of the European countries, as well as in the US, it's being suggested that the booster dose will help. Do you go with that idea that the booster dose will help even for those who have? I mean, obviously, for those who have taken, both the doses of the vaccine
See, the booster,
in a country like India,
well, the booster doses are for whom? That's the first question. Is more for the
right?
susceptible people, more for the healthcare worker, frontline worker, those people. And as we already know by this time, that the immunity that the vaccine provides us inside the body doesn't stay lifelong. It went out slowly, slowly, and maximum we
True.
have 6 months. So obviously, in that aspect, booster dose is essential to take. And if that's the case, like the mortality and morbidity is less in terms of Omicron, once you have the booster dose, you will, even though you are infected with the virus, this variant, then you will have mild symptoms. So
Right.
having the
So,
no
for,
immunity versus little immunity, yes.
yes. So for India, for example, the first dose that was administered, was administered to the healthcare workers. They were the frontline workers,
Yes.
followed by people in the government, the police, and so on and so forth, and the people who were above 60 years of age, and that is how the gradation was done in terms of the prioritizing immunization. Now, if you look at the time frame in which the first vaccines were given, and the time frame that you are talking about, 6 months, 7 months or so, I think in India, the duration of antibody in the first set of healthcare workers who received the vaccines may have already worn out, and in such a circumstance, in the wake of the fact that there is this new highly transmissible variant that is knocking on our doors, would you suggest immediate booster dose for people who had taken the vaccines in the first phase?
Well, as I said, like the same, I guess this is a kind of the pertinent question that you just asked, like the if Omicron that can dodge neutralizing antibodies, it doesn't mean that the immune responses triggered by vaccination and like the people who have prior infection will offer no protection, right, against this
Mhm.
variant. So that's not the truth.
Mhm.
So the studies suggest that the relatively low levels of neutralizing antibodies may protect people from these severe forms of Omicron. So in that case, keeping that in mind, that obviously the booster dose with the people in India, like who had the vaccines back in January,
Mhm.
definitely will be in beneficial side once they have taken the booster doses.
Right. So in a country like India, where the second dose is far from being complete for most parts of the for the significant section of the population,
Hmm.
how can the two happen together? I mean, are you saying that the second dose goes to the people who are already
Okay.
there in the pipeline, and simultaneously the government's concerned, they go for the booster dose of the people who had received the first dose in January this year? Can the two simultaneously happen?
I'm not in a position to say like whether this is going to happen in India simultaneously, but theoretically speaking, whether it's a
Is
viable
it
option.
happening is it happening in the US?
Yes, it is happening in US. So what is happening? Like I have taken my booster dose
Okay.
last month because we the second dose I have taken already past 6 months, right? So the
Mhm.
people who are already past 6 months after the second dose are taking booster doses here.
Okay.
So that's the
Okay.
US scenario. And the people who are not actually willing to take the second dose, they are pushed and they are rewarded to take the second dose. So all kind of things are happening. So it is happening simultaneously here. I'm not in a position to say in India whether it's possible or not, but it is theoretically, if you ask me whether this is the viable option for the solution, yes, it is the viable option for the solution, like to do this, because as I said, like to have some immunity, and the way scientific community are talking, that it will give some protection. So you have to understand, or people have to understand, okay, if I have taken 6 months before, I don't have that much immunity. So then comes the booster dose, and then comes the who will take that. These are the step by step thought process, like who will take them. And then if people are taken the first dose, then obviously they should take the second dose. So that's very
Right.
important now. Yes.
I want to wrap this up by asking you this final question. As far as the scientific community is concerned, how far has the understanding developed so far in in getting a hang of the Omicron variant? The virus has spread to a significant number of European countries. We do know that it is already present in the US. It is now officially present in India. So it is spreading very quickly. Do you see a time frame as far as the scientific community is concerned, your own fraternity is concerned, as to how soon you can get a grip over this mutated forms and versions of this virus?
Well, see, the thing is that there is still little understanding of what's going on with this variant, and it's even true for the scientists. But in terms of how fast this is spreading, as we were discussing, that South Africa recorded almost 3 times within 5 days, and epidemiology measurement is basically based on the growth, epidemics
Mhm.
growth using R. We call it R. That's the average number of new
Right,
cases spread by
right,
each infection. Okay, so that in South Africa is now model because it has the most Omicron variants infection there. So it's actually now 2. The R was above 2 in some provinces in South Africa within last 1 month. It was less than 1 in September, even though the vaccination was only 24%. So obviously it's clear that it is reinfecting people. It is now spreaded Europe, and as you said, other countries already, I guess 30 countries. So it's very difficult to say when it we how the model looks like right now given the situation, but obviously it is true that it is infecting 3 to 6 times more. I mean, spreading 3 to 6 times more than Delta. So the time frame wise in India, as if we can think about already 2 people are like the people that started infecting, 1 month or so, we will see a significant number of people are Omicron positive, variant positive. So that I can say. How we will do the modeling, it needs more data to put in the model.
right. More data is the need of the hour. On that note, Dr.
Yeah.
Parnali Dhar, thank you so much for talking to CNN News 18. This is a digital platform on which we were talking. I believe that Dr. Dhar has given significant insights into how we should actually look into the new variant, and how we should be gearing up to tackling this new challenge that faces us at this point in time. Dr. Dhar Chaudhary, thank you once again. See you until we meet again and speak about the further developments on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.